Discover the hidden Israelite ancestry of some of the most powerful nations on earth. Watch as Scripture unveils the terrifying future of America and Great Britain as revealed through the Sabbatical and Jubilee years. Discover the identity of Assyria and its role in this final Jubilee cycle. Learn of the pending judgments that are to be soon poured out as a result of transgressing the Sabbatical years. Sighted Moon.
So welcome here, everyone. Thank you for coming. We're going to be talking about the blood moons. The blood moons is a controversial subject. It has become of late. People have been looking about it. There's a lot of different talk about it. Some people have come out in favor of it. They were first mentioned and spoken of by Mark Biltz. And he just come out with a new book this past winter called The Blood Moons. He has discovered them in a certain order, and they happen to fall on the high holy days. And it's kind of interesting. What does it mean? He's not answering that question. First of all, let me say I'm going to mention a few pastors here today. Mark Biltz is one, John Hagee is another. I've got no disrespect or ill towards any of them. Like me, they're teaching you as best they can with the things that they understand at the time. All my teachings, tomorrow I might have a different opinion. I've added to this blood moon teaching. I gave it for the first time in Calgary last month. I gave it as a newsletter this winter before the first blood moon came along. But I've now added more, and I've found more, and I add to it. So my position is changing, and so should yours, as we learn more. So what is the blood moons all about? Why has it got the imagination of everybody right now? Now, Pastor John Hagee says in the book of Genesis, God uses the sun, moon, and stars for signs, seasons. Examples can be found throughout the Bible. And this is the case he makes. But he takes the same information that Mark Biltz does, and John Hagee has a bigger following, and he makes more money selling more books. And I'm not condemning him for that. I'm just saying he's now published the same information. But John Hagee doesn't keep the Sabbath or the holy days. If you're listening, John Hagee, and I hope you do, you need to repent of that. You need to teach your followers, because you need to watch these other videos, because they're about to get seriously hurt. They're not going to be raptured out. You need to keep the Sabbath, and you need to keep the holy days, and you need to keep them holy. And you need to keep the sabbatical year, which is what I teach. So now he uses some examples, and he gets going on it, and they're interesting. God's getting ready to speak. God's trying to say something. Is God so naive that he can't speak, or that he can't just come out and say it? He doesn't have to try. He's already said it. It's in our Bibles. It's in our Torah. He's already said it. So what's the blood moons got to do with any of this? There are blood moons in the Bible. It's spoken of. This is John Hagee's book. Now, both John Hagee and Mark Biltz, they go to Joel, and they say, the sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the coming and great and awesome day of Jehovah. Excuse me. And then the whole world goes, ooh. Now, another man I have a great deal of respect for is Michael Rood. Michael Rood came out just before the first blood moon this past Passover, and he said the blood moons have been canceled. Now, Michael Rood is a marketeer and a showman, and he has done so much to promote this messianic teaching that I got nothing but praise for him. I don't agree with everything he says, but he forgot to give Jehovah the memo. So, sorry, Michael, because the blood moon still showed up. Right? At the same time, that same week, Keith Johnson, who I have the utmost respect for, again, I'm not slamming nobody. he came up and talked about the hype of the blood moons and that the blood moons are eclipsed. Another cute title. But he said they got nothing to do with the Torah. Now they both, Michael Rood and Keith Johnson, went on to explain that this Joel 2 verse is for the tribulation period. And they're right. They're right. That's what Joel 2 is talking about. So what is the blood moons that we're seeing now at Passover in 2014, at Sukkot in 2015? What are they about? The blood moons at Passover 2015 and the blood moons in Sukkot in 2015. What are they about? We're about to see another blood moon this fall at Sukkot. What's it mean? Nobody's answering that question. That's the question I'm going to answer. Because there's not 4 blood moons. Actually, that's not quite right. There's 4 blood moons. But there's 2 more dark moons in 2016. On the high holy days. So we got 2014, 2015, and 2016 on the high holy days. And that's what I'm going to present to you today. And that's why I want you to take this and weigh the evidence that Mark has presented, that John Hagee has presented, that Michael and Keith have presented. Now, take their evidence and take their arguments. Now, compare it to what I'm going to say here today. So, for those that don't know, a blood moon is a tetrad. 4 blood moons in a 2-year period of time. There have been 142 of them in the past 5,000 years. They are a rare event given. Since Yeshua, when he was killed in 31 AD, there have been 62 tetrads. A rare event. So that's in the last 2,000 years. Of these 62, only 7 have landed on the high holy days. Okay, there's a big caution sign right there. Whoops. Pay attention, something just got slipped right by you. We'll get back to that in a minute. This is, as you can see, a rare event. 1 Corinthians 6:1. Do any of you dare, when you have a matter against another, go to law before the unjust? What am I saying here? You people are to judge angels. You are to judge. Look at you. What is he thinking? You are to judge angels. Those poor angels. I'd be calling a retrial. You guys are to judge angels. There goes my voice. I'm sorry. You guys are to judge angels. If you're to judge angels, you should be able to judge this matter. To weigh the evidence and hear both sides. Which is what I've been asking you to do with all the teachings I present. Hear the evidence, weigh it, and then you decide. Don't be a sheep and just follow whoever's got the most common and newest teaching. Do not believe in every spirit, but try the spirits. Try them to see if they are of God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. And I could be a false prophet. What's a prophet? Anybody who speaks the Torah. Anybody who utters the Torah. So anything that you come out of your mouth, if you're saying the Torah, you are prophesying. You, and you, and you. So here are the 6 or 8 tetrads in the last 2,000 years. 162, 163, there they are. I don't need to list them all. That's when they happened. And we're looking at the 2014, 2015 one right now. But these are all the historical ones that they use. Again, watch, I just slipped something right by you. You didn't even catch it. April 2nd and September 25th, 1493. March 22nd and September 15th, 1494. There's the dates. Those are the actual dates the blood moons came. You can go to NASA and you can find this out and you can learn this stuff. What does it mean? These are rare. The problem with this stuff is they're looking at it. When you look at those dates, okay, you look at those dates, 1492, the Jews were kicked out of Spain. 1492. But that's been going on for about, I think, 7 to 15 years before that. It wasn't a one-year process. It was an ongoing process. 1493, 1494, there's blood moon. After the fact, you're going to send a blood moon as a warning. What's going on here? Something's wrong. 1949, blood moons. What happened? Blood moons, warning. Israel became a state, 1948. Actually, 1947. They came after. Yet people are tying that. No, you can't tie it in. You don't talk about the closing the gate once the horse got out. That's what they're doing. 1967. 1968. What happened in 1967? The 6-Day War. So after the 6-Day War, we got the blood moon warning. We had one in Passover, and then the Atonement is the 6-Day War, and then the other one at Sukkot. So we only had one blood moon warning. But we get a blood moon once a year some places. So these are all after the horse got out the gate. You don't close the gates, too late. A blood moon warning is no good there for that purpose. But a tetrad is a rare event. The problem with this is that they are using the Hillel calendar. They're using the Hebrew calendar to judge when these blood moons were in history. So now we're going to talk about the two calendars. This is the controversial subject that everyone's wrestling with in the churches of God and all the different messianic groups. Which one you follow, blah, blah, blah. Which one's right? We had a gentleman here yesterday, and he wrote a paper about it. He got the boot from his congregation for doing that. But even he didn't have the nail to help prove this. The nail in that is what Yeshua said, no man shall know the day or the hour. No man shall, write that verse down wherever that is, no man shall know the day or the hour of the return of Yeshua. Okay? No man knows that. Why? Well, if you keep the holy days and you understand the holy days mean, he's coming on the Feast of Trumpets. That's what it means. That's when he first came. The Feast of Trumpets. So what is the Feast of Trumpets? It comes on the first day of the 7th month. No man shall know the day or the hour of the first day of the 7th month. Why? Because it's determined by the moon, the sighted moon. When you have a sighted moon, you don't know when it's going to come. So you need to go out and look at the moon and tell me when exactly you're going to see that moon some night. On the first crescent night. You won't. Until finally you get tired, you give up, and then you come back and you look, and all of a sudden you say, oh, there it was. Well, how come I didn't see that a minute ago? You need to go do it to see how hard it is to discover this. No man shall know the day or the hour. And that's the clinching verse in this argument. But let's look at Hillel. Let's look at when this calendar began. Hillel, too, is credited with the current Hebrew calendar, having shared the working mathematics during his tenure as Nasi for the Sanhedrin in 330 to 365 Common Era, due to persecution being put on the Jewish community. So in 3, the temple's been destroyed, 70 AD. They moved to Tiberias, and now I'm not sure where he is when he's doing this. I think Tiberias, but I'm not 100% sure on that. They wait for witnesses to come and tell them when the moon has been sighted. But those witnesses, because of persecution, are being killed. And then when they have two witnesses tell them they've seen the moon and they examine them, then the witness or the messengers have to go out to all the dispersed Jews and tell them the moon's be sighted, so they know when they keep the holy days. And that's the only reason the sighting of the moon is important, so that we know when to keep the holy days at the right time. It's the same as keeping the Sabbath on Wednesday. It's that important. If you're keeping the Sabbath on Sunday, you can't justify it by the Torah. If you're keeping the Sabbath on Friday, you can't justify it by the Torah. If you're keeping the holy days at the wrong day, you cannot justify it unless you do it according to the Torah. So these messengers are being killed. He's got to come up with a way that we can all keep the feast at the right time. We have a document. So this was 350 Common Era. Before that, they didn't have an issue with the calendar because it was always the sighted moon. 350 this started. Now, we have this document that is written in 835, 836 Common Era, found in the Geniza in Cairo. Now, a Geniza is a room at the front of the synagogue where you put your documents that have Jehovah's name written on them, because you're not allowed to destroy that document because his name's on it. You're not allowed to burn it. You're to put those documents in an earthen vessel and bury it in the front of the synagogue off to the right. Think about that, because that's exactly what happened to Yeshua, the Word, buried in an earthen vessel off to the right, facing east. A much later document from the Cairo Geniza, a letter of a Babylonian exilarch, one of the main leaders of the Rabbinite community, with detailed calendar instructions for the year 835, 836. The letter reveals that Passover, 15th of Nisan, in the year was due to occur on a Tuesday, whilst according to the present-day rabbinic calendar, it should have occurred on a Thursday. What's going on here? According to the exilarch, the setting of Passover on Tuesday was dictated by a concern to avoid the visibility of the new moon before the first day of the month. What? The setting of Passover on Tuesday was dictated by a concern to avoid visibility of the new moon before the visibility of the new moon. That's the first crescent, before the first day of the month. This concern does not exist in present-day rabbinic calendar. That's because they go by the conjunction and they have no regard for the first crescent. Then, later on, after Rambam, in the 11th century, 11th, 12th century, they added postponement rules, which are now presently in the Hebrew calendar. These postponements say that you cannot have a high holy day, Friday, and then the Sabbath, Saturday, back to back. Okay? So they postpone the rules. They postpone the holy days by 1, 2, and as many as 3 days. And that's only in the fall. You can have back-to-back holy days for Passover. What about Pentecost? Well, they keep Pentecost Nisan 16, but Saturday and Sunday is Sabbath and holy day. So that started after Rambam in the 12th century. And today's rabbinic calendar was not universally used until Moses Maimonides, also known as Rambam, who wrote the Mishnah, Torah, in 1178 Common Era, standardized it. So he standardized the Mishnah, all these different notes, he put them into almost like an encyclopedia. He lived from 1135 to 1204 Common Era. What were they doing before this? Well, some were doing a calculated thing from Hillel, some were doing the sighted moon, and they weren't always unified. The calendar used by the Jews has evolved over time. This is a direct quote from an encyclopedia source. Until the Tanaitic period, approximately 10 to 220 Common Era, the calendar employed a new crescent moon. So the Tanaitic period is the period of the sages. So the sages are the rabbis who are in charge of the Sanhedrin, and they all have different names over a period of 200 years. This period is the Tanaitic period, and the calendar employed a new crescent moon with an additional month normally added every 2 or 3 years to correct the difference between the 12 lunar months. This is called Adar Bet. And Adar Bet is determined by whether the barley is ripe in Israel. As we explained, you need barley for the wave offering during the days of unleavened bread. If the barley isn't ripe, you don't have a wave offering. If you don't have a wave offering, you can't harvest your vegetables, your fruit. You got to do the wave offering before you start your harvest. When to add it was based on observation of natural agricultural related events. Through the Amoric period, so this is another period, 200 to 500 Common Era, and into the Genoic period, this system was gradually displaced because they're now being dispersed around the world, gradually displaced by the mathematical rules used today. The principle the principles and the rules were fully codified by Maimonides in the Mishnah Torah in the 12th century. Chronologically, here's how the calendar came into use today. This is what you're reading. I'm not making this up. This is in your encyclopedias. Maimonides' work also replaced counting years since the destruction of the temple. So we have these tombstones that count what year they died in from the counting of the destruction of the temple. Whatever her name. She died in the 11th month in the 3rd year of the 5th sabbatical cycle, 1500 or 500 years after the destruction of the temple. We have tombstones like that, and that's what I was referring to, the new information we just got this year. So they replaced that. Maimonides' work also replaced counting years since the destruction of the temple with the modern creation era, Anno Mundi. Anno Mundi. Maimonides' sole contribution to mathematical astronomy is his procedure for determining the visibility of the lunar. Why would Maimonides want to do this? Why? If it doesn't matter, why? Because it does matter. Maimonides' sole contribution to mathematical astronomy is his procedure for determining the visibility of the lunar crescent, which takes up several chapters of his great law code, the Mishnah Torah. Before the calendar was fixed, Jewish law required that the beginning of each month be certified by the court at Jerusalem. No month can exceed 30 days. Hence, if the crescent is not seen on the eve of the 29th, the declaration of the new month is automatically on the 30th. When is this being written down? 12th century. Who's writing it down? Maimonides. What were they doing before that? They had a confusion from Hillel on. What did they do before Hillel in 350? Cited moon calendar. Maimonides' procedure is necessary only for those instances where witnesses do report a sighting on the eve of the 29th. So what he's doing is he's written out the instructions. How do you have, when two people come forward, we have charts on the wall. What did you see? Did you see the moon with two horns like this? Did you see the two horns like that? Was it like this or upside down? How did you see it? And the witnesses point, that's what we saw. And the other one comes in and says, that was what we saw. So those two witnesses are no longer credible because they're both pointing out two different things. If we get two to come in and point at the same one and they describe the same event, then we take them and they're trusted. There's also in the Talmud, there's instances where people are coming in giving false witness and they have a big discussion what to do with them. And then they say we're no longer going to allow those type of people to come in. We're going to only trust Jewish people. But Maimonides' procedure is necessary only for the instances where witnesses do report a sighting on the eve of the 29th. Specifically, the members of the court need to know whether a sighting is possible so that they may convene in the expectation of witnesses. And they need a few details about the appearance of the crescent for purposes of cross-examination. So the Sanhedrin doesn't go out and look for the moon. They wait for the witnesses to come in. Conversely, the court needs to know when a sighting will be impossible. It is not possible to sight the moon at certain times because it's just not there, such as a conjunction. These are the calculations that tell you when the conjunction is going to take place. When there's a conjunction, that means the sun, the moon, and the earth are in a straight line. So when you look at the moon, all you can see is the brightness of the sun because the moon is not reflecting any rays to us, it's reflecting those rays back to the sun. Okay? Conversely, the court needs to know and when to reject purported sightings. Okay. So with these facts in mind, it will be readily understood by Maimonides why Maimonides presents his method in cookbook fashion. So it's step by step, here's how you do it. One step at a time. Here's how you understand the sighting of the moon. Here's how you check the witnesses. What did I say, 12 chapters in his book? Solar and lunar parameters listed by Maimonides, I'm just going to say Rambam because it's easier for my mouth, can be plugged in. And the computation is then carried out step by step. Eventually the result is a simple yes or no answer. If the answer is yes, some additional information. So this is what 12th century is right now. How do you interview a witness? 12th century. Where's that information? It should have been back. It is back then, but he's now codifying it so everyone knows. Theoretical explanations or justifications are kept to a bare minimum. Certain parameters, for example, the geographical latitude, right, how high it was, are built in since the computation is meant to be true only for Jerusalem and its surrounding area. Rambam states that he has allowed himself some approximations, but he assures us the round-off errors cancel each other out so that there is now no net effect on the computation. The proper chronological reading of history will show you that due to persecution, Hillel used a calculated method to both confirm the sighted moon witnesses and also for those in the diaspora would know when the month began. Up until this date, 356 Common Era, they were using the sighted moon to begin the month. The calculated method never became universal until Rambam made it so in the 12th century, as we've just read. Wow. Why is there a controversy over this? Why is there people fighting over this? Why does no one just go back and look at history? So in order to understand why those dates of these blood moons things aren't lining up with historical events and why there's such a controversy about them, it's because of the calendar. It's because of the calendar. By using the current Hebrew calendar to check all your holy day dates going back in history is a misnomer. The sighted moon calendar is the one that has been used since the creation of time, up until the 11th century Common Era. So from Adam up until the 11th century is what, 4,000 years? 45? The last 1,500 years we've been using this Hebrew calendar. It's kind of like one of those things, right? The problem we now have, if we understood that the calendar is the sighted moon calendar, the problem we now have is that how do you check when the barley is Aviv? We have no record. There's an 11-day difference between the lunar calendar and the solar calendar. This is the problem, not a problem, it's designed that way because we are to be trusting in Jehovah as to when to keep the holy days. That's the whole thing. He's in charge of the holy days. So this 11-day window forces us to adjust things each year to always be watching. 354 versus 365 days. So that 11-day thing. Now in the Hebrew calendar, they have what they call a metonic cycle. This was created just before Maimonides by this guy named Meton. I think he was Greek or something, I forget. Every 3rd, 6th, 8th, 11th, 14th, 17th, and 19th year in a 19-year cycle is a forced leap year. Whether the barley's ready or not, it's just an automatic leap year. It has worked since the 12th century. But as we get further away from the time, from that period of time, we are becoming more and more distorted and further away from the truth. Okay, so with this understanding about the sighted moon being the original calendar, and we look at these dates, now let's go back and look at those dates according to the sighted moon. Actually, that's wrong. So we're not going to look at those dates. Those dates are conjunction calendar dates. Conjunction calendar dates. Okay, so they're based on the conjunction calendar, on the Hebrew calendar. That's what they've done. So we can't go back yet. There's something more we have to do. So when we look at this stuff, so this is Christopher Columbus, right? 1492, the expulsion of the Jews out of Spain before, but this is all conjunction calendar. Irrelevant. Israel, 1948, blood moons afterwards. Irrelevant, right? 1967. Okay, 1 blood moon, then 3 others after. It's irrelevant. We're using the wrong calendar. Jeremiah 30, verse 6. People are rushing to say that these blood moons in 2014 and 2015 are the beginning of Jacob's trouble. They assume, there's my favorite word, they assume the Jews are about to get whacked. I had a guy call me and all excited. The Jews are about to get whacked. They're about to go to war. The blood moons are here. In 3.5 years, Jesus is going to be back. And we're going to be raptured. And then, so my question to you, Joe, is are we going to be raptured before the blood moons or after the first blood moon? Or when do we get raptured? I got to get my house in order. Okay, so listen up closely. I listened to the guy for about an hour, all going on. I couldn't get a word in. He was all excited. And I said to him, it's you, the Christians, who are about to get whacked, not the Jews. Yeah, the Jews are going to get some beaten too, but the Christians are going to get wiped out. You are the ones that are in danger. You are the ones that are going to get hurt. So stop blaming the Christians and start looking at you. You, not them, you. What I do in this teaching of the 10 tribes is I show you who are the people of Israel. Who are those people we talked about yesterday? Who are Daniel's people that are going to be trodden upon, who are going to be trampled over? Right? You have to know who those people are. This is a teaching not about race superiority, not about being better than other people. It's a teaching to show you who's going to receive the curses. And you need to watch these videos. It's a 2-part video. It's one of the most popular videos I've done. People are fascinated with it. And I use heraldry to show you how to figure out who you are in the tribes of Israel, just by using your own family crest. It's amazing. It's amazing. But it's Israel that's going to be attacked. All 12 tribes, not just the Jews. And the Christians are part of the 10 lost tribes. The Christians in North America, the descendants of the Celts, the Celtic people, the Gaelic-speaking people, they're going to get whacked. And most of them are today called Christians. So I don't call myself a Christian just to make sure I'm not going to get whacked. When Israel went into captivity in 723 BC, so just as real quick, gets right to the heart of the matter. When Israel went into captivity by the Assyrians did not speak Hebrew. The Assyrians called Israel after their king, which they've been calling him for a number of years. Omri was the king. But the Assyrians, because they have this guttural pronunciation of their words, couldn't say Omri. The same as they couldn't say Omorah. That's why we call the place Gomorrah today, as in Sodom and Gomorrah. So they called it Omri, Comri. Bet Comri is what they called the house of Israel. Bet is house. So Bet Comri is the house of Israel. That's what they called them, and that's what they took into captivity, and that's what they said the Bet Comri are over there. Go get a Bet Comri to come bring your water. Bet Comri is what you're called. Right? After 50 years, just 50 years, Bet Comri became Gomorrah. The Gomorrah. And the Gomorrah lived in Gomeria. This is over in what is today Iran. The Gomorrah became Gimera. And Gimera became Gimerian. And Gomerian became that's a hard C down here on the Kimmerians, it's almost like a K, Kimmerians. And today we now say Cimmerians, or I do. Some people still use the hard K. And that developed into the hard K Celts, or the soft C Celts, Celtics. And we all know who the Celtics are today. Those are our ancestors. And that's it in a nutshell. Now these names are written on a Behistun rock in Iran. All the different names from Scythian, Saka, Jutes, they're all written down on these stones in Iran. And they're there to this day to tell us what all the different names are, because it says Bet Cumri where the Gomorrah. The Bet Cumri were the Saxons, or Scythians. The Bet Cumri and the Scythians became the Saxons, and the Saxons became the Anglo-Saxons, and Anglo-Saxons is just bull, sons of Isaac. The bull is a symbol for Manasseh, and that's why we have John Bull today as a symbol for England. It's so simple to understand. But too many people say that's an Armstrongism, and they won't look at it, and they put up the cross, and they're not going to hear anything about it because that's Armstrong. And then they say, oh, if it's not, they don't know who Armstrong is. That's Israelitism. That is British Israelism from the England. Now, British Israelism has a lot of racism in it. We are better than everyone else because we're British Israel. That is wrong. I'm going to say this right now because I have to say it because people get the wrong notion here. The only reason I teach this is so that you know who's getting the curses. But if any, I don't care if you're polka dot, green and yellow, and I don't care what color, what nationality you are. If you are keeping Torah, you are an Israelite. Period. That's the grafting in of the tree. You're a branch. You're not the root. You're the grafted in branch. As long as you're keeping Torah. If you're not keeping Torah, you're still over here in the burn up pile. So watch this video. It's on the website. It's free. Go and get it. So, now understanding who we're talking about, understanding who Israel is, understanding which calendar we are to use. We're to use a sighted moon calendar. We got a little bit more homework to do here before we get to this other stuff. Let's take a look at these blood moons. Okay? So here's the blood moon from Passover in 2014. The circles here, I can't move, Josh will kill me. The circles going through that red dot is where the blood moon where the moon passes through the shadow of the earth, and because of the refraction of the rays of the sun going past the earth, they get bent to hit the moon, and only the red shows up. That's what makes it blood red. It's a rare thing. The shaded area down here in the bottom part is the part of the world that will not see the blood moon. So I'm getting this from NASA. The area in the white area, and you see a line there that has a solid, that's the highest point when it's going to be the most reddest. All the areas in white will see it, and the different grades of gray, they will have less and less chance to see the blood moon. Okay, you with me? You understand that? So the dark area, they don't see it. The white area, they do. The state of Israel, are they going to see the blood moon in Passover this year? I was in Israel, Passover, I didn't see a blood moon. So this chart is right. But the blood moon was seen over North America. Who's North America? Part of the 10 lost tribes. There's a blood moon warning for North America. You'll also see that England doesn't quite get it, but they get a little bit. Australia gets a little bit at the end. Australia and England are also part of those 10 lost tribes. Here's something else. Now, I don't know, can you guys see that? It's pretty dark. You're looking at the constellation of Bethula. Okay? Bethula is the Virgin. Bethula is the Virgin. She's about to give birth to the child. In her one hand is a corn, and in the other hand is a branch. That branch is spelled with capital B-R-A-N-C, capitals all the way across, signifying that it's Yeshua. Look up capital branch, all capital letters in your Bible. There's about 5 places. Bethula represents Israel. Now this blood moon just so happened to be right in the hand of Bethula. Just to the right of her is, over in Libra, is Saturn. Okay, now Joe, you just stepped into astrology and we're not supposed to do that. That's another taboo. Don't go there. If you read the scriptures, you read the prophets are reading the constellations to understand prophecy. Because the constellations were given to Adam and Eve by Jehovah. And it's that looking at those constellations that Eve thought the new Messiah was Cain. Read the scriptures carefully. When Cain killed Abel, she said, Jehovah sent us a new seed in Seth. And she thought that one was going to redeem them from the transgression they did in the garden. And right from the beginning, they knew about this redemption of somebody coming to save them. It's read right there in the stars. Isaiah 7:14, so the Lord himself shall give you a sign. What are we talking about? A sign. Okay, we said that yesterday. The Sabbath is a sign. Here's another sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel. What is Isaiah? Where's he getting that from? He's looking at this constellation in Bethula. Each of those names, written in every language around the world, has the same meaning of the stars in that constellation. It means the Messiah is coming from a virgin. That's where they got the virgin birth from. Now go to Revelation 12, verse 1. And there appeared a great sign in the heavens, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon was under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. And having a babe in womb, she cries, being in travail, having been distressed to bear. So here's another sign. And another sign was seen in heaven. This is Revelation 12, verse 3. And behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns on his heads. What are we talking about here? This is Revelation, the book nobody understands. It's the first book we all read, trying to figure out the Bible. Just go to the end. Big mistake. That's what I did. Then I asked my Catholic friends, what's that mean? They said, I don't know. Who wants to read that? Then I went and asked the priest. He said, I don't know. Well, what good are you? Well, you want communion? All you got to do is have love, he said. Revelation 12:4. And his tail drew, now listen to this, this is so neat. His tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven and cast them onto the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, being about to bear, so that when she bears, he might devour the child. We know this is prophetic. We all know this part. Where does it come from? Here, I hope you can see it. It's fairly dark. There's Bethula above, about to give birth, and there's the serpent below, about to devour the child when it's born. And when you look in the constellations, that serpent takes up 1/3 of the stars below it have fallen into Satan's sway. Where do we get that from? It's right there in the constellations. Been there right from the very beginning. Jehovah's been talking to you. David says in the Psalms, night after night, your word goes forth. And we sing that in the churches of God. Throughout your constellations, night after night, there it is, your word. And it's in the constellation in every language around the world. I forget that psalm. I used to like singing it. You guys know what I'm talking about? Yeah, one. Okay, good. So on April, the first blood moon, that's where it was in her hand. And God said, let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to divide. And everyone quotes this verse all the time. They're talking about the sun and the moon and blah, blah. But they don't talk about the stars. What's he say here? And let them be for signs and for seasons, for days and for years. Which lights in the heavens? The sun, the moon, and the stars. Psalm 147:4. He appoints the number of the stars. He calls them all by name. What are the names of those stars? Jehovah's already named them. They have names. They're in Hebrew right now. Some of them are in Arabic. And when you find those names in Chinese, they also mean the same thing as you do in Hebrew. When you find those same star names in English, they mean similar names as they do in Hebrew. It's such an amazing thing. Job talked about them. Jehovah talked about those same constellations to Job. These are not astrology. And now astrology is what you read in the paper to find out what's going to happen to you tomorrow. That way you don't get out of bed. That is evil. That is wrong. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the constellations that Jehovah's named himself. That Jehovah named every star in those constellations. Job 9:9. Who made the bear? That's the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper. Who made Orion? Orion, you see it up there, the Orion's belt, the 3 stars in a row. And the Pleiades. What's the Pleiades? That's that cluster of stars in the shoulder of Taurus, the bull. And the chambers of the south. I'm not sure what that is. Job 38:1. Can you bind the bands of Pleiades? Can you keep them in that together? Because right now, since they used to see them, one of those stars has disappeared. We don't no longer see it. Where'd it go? Or loosen the cords of Orion. Take his belt off. Can you bring out the constellations in their seasons? Because they show up certain times of the year. Right? Or can you guide the bear? Can you bring out the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper, his sons, at the right time? Can you do that, Job? Do you know the ordinances? Do you know the ordinances of the heavens? Can you set up their rulership on earth? He's humbling Job is what he's doing, showing how great Jehovah is because he's done all this stuff. So don't let no one tell you these constellations are sin to look at. Astrology is sin. Astronomy is not. So look at the constellation. Isaiah did, the other prophets did, and they used them to tell Israel what sins they were doing and when the redemption was coming, or that the redemption, not when, but when the redemption was coming. So here's the second blood moon for October in 2014. And it passes through the shadow of the earth and is still in that area. If it was a total eclipse, you wouldn't see the moon at all, and it would be black. It would go right through the center of that line. So again, in this area in the bottom here, the gray area does not see the blood moon. The white area does. So the high point of that blood moon is going to be over Alaska, actually down towards Hawaii. But North America will still see the blood moon. Newfoundland will see a part of it, or just a shade of it. Australia will start to see a lot of the blood moon. Okay? These are Israelite countries. This warning is for Israel. Again, this is in the fall. I don't know how well you guys can see it. But that blood moon is below that fish of Pisces. What does Pisces represent? There's two fish there, and they're tied to a ribbon, and the ribbon's tied to this huge monster beast. This is the Babylonian beast. This is Cetus. It's the great monster. It's Satan. The star that holds that bond, those two ribbons, is called Hasatan. The ribbon tells you that he has control of and even though they're trying to get away, he has control of them. The one on the bottom represents Judah, and the one going north represents Israel. Why? Because Israel's to the north. This blood moon is right on the tail of Judah. I'm showing you this stuff. I don't understand exactly what it all means, but it's there. Okay? I'm not trying to interpret it and say blah, blah, blah. I don't know, but it's there. I'm not dismissing it. In March 2015, we have our first solar eclipse. So the moon's going to pass the earth, and then the moon's going to pass in front of the sun, and we're not going to see the sunlight, and it's going to black out. And there's the part of the world in that green line that's going to have the solar eclipse. So that's over Asia, Africa, and Europe. What does that mean? When's that happen? That's the Feast of Trump. No, that's the new beginning of the year. But this is according to the conjunction moon. It has to be a conjunction moon. Aviv starts, Aviv 1 is when this first crescent is seen. So it's a day later. Does this have any significance? Yes and no. I'm just showing it to you. I'm not putting a whole lot of weight on it. I'm just showing it to you. Okay? So we got 4 blood moons, and we got solar eclipses. Here's the blood moon Passover 2015. Again, what part of the world are going to see it? North America for the most part. Australia for or all of Australia will see it. England and Israel, the state of Israel, do not. So far, England's only been able to partially see it, and Israel hasn't seen any of these 3 blood moons. Okay, now, I'm talking about all 12 tribes. These other teachers are talking about the state of Israel because they think the Jews are all the tribes. So their conjunction moons or blood moons that they're talking about apply to the state of Israel. Israel's about to get whacked, right? No. Israel doesn't even see those blood moons yet. What kind of a God is that to send out a warning to a nation and not let them see it? Okay? Who are we talking about? We're talking about all 12 tribes. And so far, the main head tribes are seeing these 3 blood moons so far. Again, this blood moon takes place in the elbow of Bethula. Here's the next eclipse. This is supposed to be the Feast of Trumpets, the first day, but actually it's the sighted moon as we've just shown you, so it's a day before that or 2 days before that. But this solar eclipse goes over the Pacific Ocean, over the Indian Ocean in Madagascar, or Antarctic Ocean, whichever that is down there. And Australia might be able to see some of it, but most of it's going to be over the Antarctica, and no one's going to see it. So what significance is that? I don't know. I'm just showing it to you. So I want to take all the mystery out of all this stuff and show you the facts, because you're the judge, right? You're the judge of angels. Here's the fourth blood moon. Okay, so North America 4 times saw all 4 blood moons. England saw it once. Now England sees it again. Israel now sees it again, but Australia doesn't see this one. Okay? South Africa gets to see this one. Again, another Israelite nation. So now start to think. Who are we talking about? Israel, 12 tribes, blood moons, North America, every time. Israel, the state of Israel, but once. Okay? Again, what's it mean? Always ask the question, what's it mean? So here's that blood moon in this, again, underneath Pisces, underneath the fish that represents Judah, near the tail of this great beast called Cetus. Cetus is one of the biggest constellations in the world, or in the sky. It's the monster. It's Babylon. It's Satan. You read all the names of the stars in there and you get goosebumps because it's talking about Satan. Now we move into 2016. We have another solar eclipse. There's the peak of it. Okay, so Australia may be able to catch a glimpse of it, part of it, but it's mostly in the Pacific Ocean. What's that up there? Part of Russia, right? Alaska may get to catch a little bit of it. That's about it. Again, I don't know the importance of this. That's at the first of the year, March 2016. Okay, so we've done the 4 blood moons. We've done the 2 solar eclipses. Everyone's all hyped up about. Now we moved into 2016 because we're looking at a sighted moon calendar, a crescent moon calendar. But why are we into 2016 yet? Okay. I always say the best part to the very end, and then you have to figure out, oh, is that what he was talking about way back at the beginning? That makes you think when you're going home. So you don't get bored and fall asleep when you're driving. Okay? March. Passover 2016. Oh, hang on. Joe, how do you know it's Passover? I don't. When will you know? 1st of Aviv. Actually, maybe the week before when the barley's ripe. Maybe. So this is now speculation. I could be wrong. But the year begins when the barley is ripe. Now, let's look at this. It's not a blood moon. That's going through the shadow area of the earth. It's not a blood moon. What is this? Remember, in the Hebrew calendar, every 3rd, 6th, 7th, whatever it is, number of a 19 year is a forced leap year. 2016 is a forced leap year. It's the 19th year of a 19-year cycle. So they must add in an extra month to make their Hebrew calendar correct according to their calculations. It's a forced year. What if the barley is ripe early that year? It could very well be. And Passover could be March 23rd. Okay, so the equinox people get all upset because the equinox, you can't have Passover before the equinox. The equinox is March 22nd or 21st. Well, then they change, well, you can't have the beginning of the year before the equinox. Oh, the equinox has nothing to do with anything. It's whether or not the barley's ripe. You must have barley to have the wave offering. If the barley's ripe, you must harvest it before you harvest all the rest. You must wave it before anyone can harvest any of the barley. And if you don't wave it and you harvest it, you've sinned. So we're waiting for the barley. If the barley's ripe, we're having Passover. March 23rd, 2016. But it's not a blood moon. It's a dark moon. What's a dark moon mean? What's a dark moon mean? Such eclipses constitute a relative small fraction of lunar eclipses, and the distribution of these events is uneven, occurring between 0 and 9 times per century. Per century. Is that a common occurrence? It's rare. A tetrad is rare, but a dark moon is also rare. Per century. The period of this variation is about 600 years and also correlates with the frequency of total umbral, that's passing through the shadow, eclipses and tetrads. Wow. And that's what a dark moon looks like. It's kind of dark. It's not orange, but it's certainly not bright white or yellow. So this is when 2016, this is now up in her head, right? This is where the 12 stars are around her head. I'm not sure what, I'm just showing you stuff, right? I want you to weigh the evidence. I'm just showing you all the evidence. Bethula is the name of this constellation. It's constellation Virgo today. The Virgin, the Blessed Virgin. I almost said Virgin Mary. Sorry. Going back to my old roots. There's also a solar eclipse in September, which represents approximately the Feast of Trumpets. This solar eclipse is over Africa. So South Africa will see it. Does it mean anything? I don't know. There you go. Weigh the evidence. This dark moon passes through the shadow of the earth. And this dark moon is going to be seen in Australia, Israel, and England, but not North America. That's in the fall. Did I show you the one for, are we seeing the Passover one? Did I forget that slide? No, there it is. So it's seen over, it's seen over North America and Australia. Right, okay. I missed that slide. So there it is again. This dark moon is in below that fish of Pisces. Again, I'm not sure what it means, I'm just showing you. Now, we now have 4 blood red moons at Passover and Sukkot in both 2014 and 2015. Right? So there they are in the calendar, this Jubilee cycle, 2014 and 2015. We have 2 dark moons in 2016 at Passover and Sukkot again. Nobody is talking about those. Everyone's trying to make this fit a Hebrew calendar, and it doesn't fit. I'm talking about a sighted moon calendar. Again, we don't know when Passover is going to be in 2016. Nor do we know the Passover is going to be at the right time in 2015. But I'm believing it's going to match up with the Hebrew calendar next year, just by looking at the events. So if we have 11 days between the 354 and 365, 11 days every 3 years would be 33 days, right? That's why you add in an extra month approximately every 3 years. So now, we're on the right calendar with the Hebrew calendar right now. We're at the same time, so it's about 3 years since we have a difference of 30 days. That means 2016 is going to be about 30 days difference, because they won't be keeping the holy days at the same time the sighted moon people will. There'll be 30 days difference that year. Now I'm speculating. We won't know that until Aviv 1. Okay? And now in 2016 we have 2 more dark moons, and we have 4 solar eclipses from the start of this whole event. What does it mean? These are all rare events. A tetrad is a rare event. A dark moon is a rare event. I just got goosebumps. Wow, this is rare. Right? But what does it mean? Why do we care? So this doesn't happen again, potentially, until we come to the year 2032, 2033. Again, we showed you what those years represent. Those years, I'm telling you, are the tribulation years. These blood moons are going to happen during the tribulation year, which is what Joel is about, which was Michael and Keith were talking about, is for the tribulation. But I'm saying that's when the tribulation is, based on the chronology I've done of the sabbatical and jubilee year cycles, based on the understanding of the holy days, which we've explained to you in our other teachings. Right? That's why we went through all that stuff yesterday with you folks, to get you up to speed, and we went to the heart and core. And it's a hard teaching. Right? It still upsets me, and I've presented this a number of times, and I still get upset each time I do it. So this potential for blood moons to be seen again takes place at that time, according to the sighted moon calendar. So it's happening at the right time, which is what Michael and Keith were talking about. It's for the tribulation. That's what Joel 2 is about, the tribulation. So we have those in the tribulation. 2032, 2032, 2033, 2033. Look at them. When Satan to be locked up? Atonement 2033. Okay, so it seems to be, I have a case here. We will not be able to prove this until we see the barley and we see the sighting of the moon. I want you to notice something else. June 5th, 2020. June 5th, 2020. What is the middle of this current Jubilee cycle? The middle of this week, the middle of this Shabuah, this middle of this last 120th Jubilee cycle is what? 2020. 2020. And in the middle of this Jubilee cycle, Israel's going to be cut off. The 12 tribes, not just the state of Israel. Israel, all 12 tribes. We have a dark moon, June 5th. Okay? 2020. That's not Shavuot, that's after Shavuot. I'm just pointing it out to you. I just thought, wow, that's kind of interesting. What is so important about June 5th? That's the end of the covenant made with many by the United Nations Environmental Program. Right? That circle represents the sun, and that represents the moon. Daniel 9:27, 1972, 49 years later, brings you to June 5th, 2020. And that gives me goosebumps. What the covenant made with many through the United Nations was done at Stockholm. Sorry, Josh. Done at Stockholm, June 5th to 16th, 1972. 1972, count 49 years later, one Shabuah, this covenant made with many for one Shabuah, 1 week, Daniel 9:27, comes to an end. That's 2020, just after Shavuot. Okay? I'm showing you this because, wow. Right? What does it mean? We haven't answered that question. What does a blood moon mean? What is the importance of all this stuff? What is all the hype about? 2020 is the year the 2300 days of hell begins, which, you know, that was the emotional teaching I hate giving that I presented yesterday. It begins at Shavuot. This is when the US, UK, and their Commonwealth will be defeated and utterly destroyed. Okay, go through the Hebrew of Daniel 9 and read every word in Hebrew. Stop letting the interpreters tell you what it says. Read what it says in Hebrew. Utterly, that word for not will be as if they never were. Watch our video teaching on the 70 Shabuah and the 2300 days of hell. It's free, it's online. Just go there and take 2 hours of your life and watch it. You don't have to buy nothing. It's free. I'll take your money, but it's free. There's no excuse for you not to watch it. As for the blood moons, the Bible refers to them several times. Actually, just a few times. Some of the references speak of the moon being darkened, though. See, no one's talking about the darkened moons. Isaiah 13:10, for the stars of the heavens and their constellations shall not give the light. The sun shall be darkened, solar eclipses, and its going forth, and the moon shall not reflect its light. That's a dark moon. The earth shall tremble before them, Joel 2:10. The heavens shall shake, the sun and the moon shall grow dark, and the stars shall gather in their light. You're not going to see these things. I always thought that was cloud, smoke, and fire until I heard Mark built, and then I started thinking, well, maybe it's solar eclipses like you said. And then I started wondering more and more. What does it mean, though? Joel 3:15, the sun and the moon shall be darkened. That's not a blood moon. Shall be darkened, and the stars shall gather in their light. Matthew 24:29, and immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. And the stars shall fall from the heaven, and the powers of the heaven shall be shaken. So others specifically mention the moon turned to blood. Joel 2:31 and Revelation 6:12. So I believe those are the two verses that only say the blood moons. And I could be wrong on that. That's what I'm thinking right now. Oh, so yeah, I'm saying, okay, there's what I'm saying there. So in all the Bible, we have two verses. Joel 2:31, the sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the coming and great and awesome day of Jehovah. And when he opened the Revelation 6:12, when he opened the sixth seal, I looked, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became as black as sackcloth and of hair, and the moon became like blood. So we got those two verses, solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, blood moons. Rare event. Again, all of this is very interesting, but whoop-de-doo. So what? Whether it's 4 blood moons, whether it's 4 blood moons and 2 dark moons, whether it's 4 blood moons, 4 solar eclipses and 2 dark moons, whoop-de-doo. Why? The answer is what no one's telling you. What's the importance of this? Leviticus 26:23. And if you will not be reformed by me, by these things, but will still walk contrary to me, then I will walk contrary to you, and I will punish you 7 times more for your sins. What have I been harping about since 2005? The curses of Leviticus 26. And if you're not going to keep the sabbatical year, then you're going to reap the curses. That's what 9/11 was about. That's what all the terror is about. That's what all this terror is going on in the world is about against Israel and the United States. That's what all the droughts are about. That's what this potential pestilences are about. And that's what these blood moons are about. See where they are in the third sabbatical cycle, 2014, 2015, 2016? And I will bring a sword on you, verse 25, Leviticus 26, verse 25. And I, Jehovah, God, the God of love, the God of peace, the good God that doesn't have to do nothing just to be liked by him because we're saved by grace and all that crap that people are telling you. I, Jehovah, will bring a sword on you that shall execute the vengeance of the covenant. Again, the covenant that we are breaking, the Mount Sinai covenant that we don't want to keep. We don't want to keep the Sabbath, or we don't want to keep the Sabbath and the holy days, Seventh-day Adventists, or we don't want to keep the Sabbath, the holy days, and the sabbatical year, Churches of God, and everyone else. Hebrew Roots Movement, all of you need to keep the sabbatical years. I, Jehovah, send the plague among you, and you shall be delivered into the hand of the enemy. That God of grace, that good, loving God that you all have totally misunderstood into a syrupy, pukey, weak little wimpy God that can't do nothing, is going to come and send a sword on you because you're being so ignorant and stubborn and won't open your Bible and read it. This is the 4th curse of a sabbatical cycle, and it happens at the same time, many times, not all the time, many times throughout all of history, as far back as you want to go. And this 120th sabbatical cycle started in 1996 and goes until 2044, and the next Jubilee year is 2045, and if you assume that that's when the Messiah comes, you're wrong. Unless those days are short, no flesh will be saved alive. We're at that time, folks. You are that generation that's going to live through this stuff if you live, if you obey. Because if you don't obey, you're dead. No arguments, no discussion, you're just dead. After you're dead, see how much you can argue. So you better start to obey now. The 4th sabbatical cycle is the cycle with the curse of war. The 4th sabbatical cycle starts in 2017 and goes to 2023. And notice that this middle of this Jubilee cycle, when Israel's to be cut off and be as if they never were, which we explain in the 2300-day teaching, is 2020. Again, in 2020, they have a blood moon when this covenant made with many, which began in 1972, ends. There's too many things happening here at one time to just ignore all this. But there's more. There's more. Listen now. So now, listen carefully. Do I say it softer so you pay attention? Listen carefully what I'm about to say. Pay attention, because here's what no one's telling you. What do the blood moons mean? That's the question we've asked from the very beginning. What does all this mean? Why are you sitting here? Because you're trying to figure out what is all the hype about? Why should I need to be concerned? The 4th curse, right? 4th sabbatical cycle, the 4th curse, Leviticus 26, we just read it. Here's what it says in the Talmud about the blood moons. We don't believe in the Talmud. That's one of those Jewish heathen books that we don't want to listen to. Good, shut up, turn off the video, go home. Don't listen anymore. But here's what it says in the Talmud, just in case you're interested. Talmud Sukkot 29a. It was taught, Rabbi Meir said, whenever the luminaries are in eclipse, it is a bad omen for Israel. Not the Jews, all 12 tribes of Israel. Since they are inured to blows. This may be compared to a school teacher who comes to school with a strap in his hand, who becomes apprehensive. Who becomes apprehensive? So when you see the principal walk in with the belt or the ruler, who is squirming in the seat? The guilty person. Who is accustomed to daily being punished? Our rabbis taught when the sun is in eclipse, it is a bad omen for the idolaters. When Lavana, or the moon, is in eclipse, it is a bad omen for Israel. Since Israel reckons Lavana, moon, and idolaters reckon the sun. Israel uses the moon for its calendar, and the pagans use the sun for their calendar. Right? That's what he's saying. It is in eclipse. If it is in eclipse in the east, it is a bad omen for those who dwell in the east. If it is in the west, it is a bad omen for those who dwell in the west. What did I just show you? Where were those blood moons? Who are they over? Whoever they are over is a bad omen for them. If it's in the midst of heaven, it is a bad omen for the whole world. I'm not sure exactly what that means. So, if its face is red as blood, listen carefully, or you don't listen if you've already left, sorry. If its face is red as blood, it is a sign that the sword is coming to the world. If it is like sackcloth or dark, it's a darkened moon. If it's like sackcloth, the arrows of famine are coming to the world. Okay, so Mark Biltz is talking about a blood moon, but he hasn't said that it's about war. John Hagee says the blood moon is about the coming of the Messiah and talking that into the Great Tribulation. Michael Rood is saying that it's got nothing to do because we're not in the tribulation. It's only for the tribulation. And Mark and John Hagee are saying it's something going on right now, with this war in Israel. It could be something. But Michael and Keith are saying, no, it's for the tribulation period. None of them are talking about the dark moon. The sword is coming if it's a blood moon. Let me get back up here. The arrows of famine are coming to the world. If it resembles both a blood moon and a dark moon, the sword and the arrows of famine are coming to the world. If the eclipse is at sunset, calamity will tarry in its coming. If at dawn, it hastens on its way. But some say the order is to be reversed. Where are they getting this from? Their own history. Their own history. I'm going to show you that in a minute. You're going to be stunned at what I'm about to show you. And there is no nation which is smitten that its gods are not smitten together with it. As it is said, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgments. But when Israel fulfilled the will of the omnipresent, of Jehovah, Hashem, they need have no fear of these omens. Back up. Read it carefully, word by word. What did he just tell you? But when Israel, all 12 tribes, fulfill the will of the omnipresent, they keep the Sabbath, they keep the holy days, and they keep the sabbatical year. That's the mark of Jehovah. That's the fourth commandment on you. When they keep that, as well as the other 10 commandments, I'm not neglecting the other 10 commandments, or the other 9, but I'm harping on this one part of the fourth one because no one keeps it. And that's the only thing I'm harping on. Keep the fourth commandment, keep the Sabbath, the holy days, and the sabbatical year, and I'll disappear. I got nothing to talk about. That's what the world doesn't keep. That's what Israel, all 12 tribes, don't keep. They don't keep the Sabbath or holy days. Now some groups are keeping the Sabbath. Seventh-day Adventists, Seventh-day Baptists. Yes, good. Stop. Continue to grow. Stop being stubborn. The holy days are part of it. Keep the holy days. Leviticus 23. Don't add to them. Churches of God keep them. Messianic Hebrew roots keep them. But they add to them. Hanukkah, Purim, Halloween, Christmas, Easter, Eid. You don't add to them. But no one is keeping the sabbatical year. They say it's only for the land. You're a hypocrite. You're a hypocrite. I don't care who you are, and I don't care what Messianic leader you are. You're a hypocrite if you tell your people it's only for in the land. Because prostitutes, we're not to prostitute our daughters if we're in the land. And that means not just in the land, but everywhere. You're a hypocrite. And I don't care if you don't like it. But when Israel fulfilled the will of the omnipresent, they have no need to. So if you're obeying the commandments, you don't need to worry about this stuff because you're protected. As it is said, thus says the Lord, Learn not the way of the nations, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven. For the nations are dismayed at them, the idolaters will be dismayed, but Israel will not be dismayed. According to the Talmud, as we've just read, that book that nobody wants to look at because it's Jewish, the blood moons are a warning of the coming sword, and the dark moon is a warning of famine. So I began to look for March and April at blood moons or dark moons, because I don't know when the barley is going to be ripe in March and April. I just don't know. We have no records, and you just can't tell in advance. So I just said Passover is always either March or April. Sukkot is always either September or October. Right? So I got those 2 months. I'm going to look for blood moons in those 2 months, or I'm going to look for dark moons in those 2 months. And let's see if I can find bunches of them together at the same time. And I go back and forward in history, and NASA has all this list, and all you got to do is just go through this list and see if those years line up with this hypothesis. Not my doctrine, it's a hypothesis. Let's see if it matches up. But NASA only went back to the year 1999 BC. Okay, so 1999 BC. That doesn't go back far enough to go to Noah's Ark. But then I tripped into someone that went back to Noah's Ark that did all these calculations, and I thought, wow. Noah's flood took place. This is why it's important to do this chronology that we've been talking about. Right? It's at the back of the Prophecy of Abraham. I've got some of these at home. They cost me $35 to print. I'm selling them for $35. So I absorb the postage, the $5, whatever it is. It's just the charts. When you do the sabbatical years and the Jubilee years, from the beginning of Adam up into our time and count the 120 Jubilee cycles, you're able to plot in there when all these events take place. And it's amazing what happens during a certain Jubilee cycle. It's repetitive in each cycle throughout all of history. We showed you some of that already. Noah's flood took place at the second Passover, May 17th, 18th, 2181 BC. Okay? That's 1656 after the creation of Adam. Guess what? They had blood moons. Right? So when was the flood? When did he get in the boat? May. When were the blood moons? April. Okay, so now you're BC. As you go back BC further, the years increase. So 81, we're going back before 81, becomes 82, 83, right? Okay, you understand that? Don't get confused by that. These aren't after. These are BC years. 2 years before the flood, we got blood moons, September and April, 2182 BC. Blood moons, October and April, 2183 BC. Now, was the barley ripe at that time? I don't know. Was Passover at those time in April and October and September? I don't know. Or Passover and Sukkot? I don't know. I'm just showing you that that is approximately when Passover and Sukkot are at that time. Okay, this is a moment to scratch and think. What's he on to here? We know where to use the sighted moon crescent to begin the month. We know that by doing that, I have Passover at April or March or April every year. So this is May. That's pretty far out. Again, I don't have this 100% nailed down. I'm just showing you the evidence. Circumstantial, yes. Guaranteed, no. Don't say Joe Dumond said this and it's not quite, because it's not. It's not foolproof. But looking back, it's, wow, it kind of has some stuff lining up here. Okay? The years are right. 2181 is the flood. Was Passover at May? The second month. The second Passover. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Right? I know, it's the second Passover. That's why it's May. It's kind of far out. But it's the second one. Yes. Did I not mention that? You all knew that anyway, right? Yes. I don't have to tell you everything. Yes, I do. Okay, so now, what am I looking at here next? All of these blood moons were visible in Israel except for the April 10, 1811 one and the September 22, 1810. And that one may be, maybe not. So here we have 6 blood moons before the 4 kings. So what am I talking about here? This is the lifetime of Abraham. And in 1810, the orange area down here in the middle, in the 3rd sabbatical cycle, that's when the kings of the north came to attack the cities of the plains and attacked Sodom and Gomorrah. And they attacked Jerusalem. And they took away all the booty of all these cities. Right? Melchizedek comes out and he greets Abraham. Abraham gives him back all this stuff. Melchizedek gives him a tithe. Melchizedek gave Abraham a tithe of all that he brought back. Sodom, the king of Sodom, wanted to do the same thing and give Abraham a tithe or give him all this stuff to outdo the king of Sodom. And Abraham wouldn't take anything because Sodom was dirty. He didn't want none of that dirty money. Right? Read, who's the subject of that verse? Abram or Melchizedek gave a tithe? That's the question here. So that's just a side issue. We can argue about that when the millennium comes. But look at this. So before the 4 kings come, we have blood moons. So the before 1810 BC is 1811, 1812, and 1813. What happens? We got those years up there. There were blood moons in April and October in 1812, 1811, April and October. 1810, okay, so 1810 is the year the war starts. 1810 Passover, when do they go out for war? Probably after Passover when the ground's starting to dry up after winter. So they have blood moons 3 years in a row. Is there something going on here? Sodom and Gomorrah are destroyed, 1790 BC. Isaac is born in 1789 BC. I'm using the BC calendar here. Remember in my charts, I've got the BC years and Common Era years on the left-hand side, on this side, and I got the after creation years from Adam on up on this side, the right side, or the left side for me. So I'm using the BC years, 1790. Sodom and Gomorrah are destroyed. Again, these moons are visible over Jerusalem. Look at how many there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. When was Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed? Lot served unleavened bread to the angels. So it was during Passover season. There's a blood moon, 1790, March, Passover. Huh. I got goosebumps. We've only done 2. We're going to do some more here. Now Jacob worked for 7 years for the hand of Rachel from 1652 to 1646 BC. And in 1646 BC, he's deceived and he gets Leah. We got 2 blood moons in 1852 in October and March. Does that mean anything? I don't know. I'm just pointing it out. There it is. I could not find any more during that cycle. But I'm pointing out what I did find. This is the Jubilee cycle for Joseph. Joseph was sold into slavery in 1621 BC. We have the 7 years of plenty in the green from 1607 BC to 1601 BC. 7 years of plenty. Then we have the 7 years of famine, 1600 BC to 1594 BC. The 1599 year in yellow, that's the 2nd year of the famine, and that's the 2nd year when the tribes of Joseph, or the tribes of Jacob, met Joseph and they were identified as their brothers. And Jacob found out that Joseph was alive. So what I'm suggesting, or what I'm seeing here, this is when we compare it to our cycle, that's the captivity cycle. The 5th sabbatical cycle is the curse of captivity. And at the second or late year before, 2 years before Shabbat Shuvah, while we're in captivity, Judah and Joseph will get together and know who they are. Is that? I don't know. But that's what I'm seeing when I compare sabbatical Jubilee cycles from one to the other. Okay, so we got blood moons here in 1625 in the fall, 1624 say Passover potentially, 1624 potentially Sukkot in the fall, 1623. Where are these dates? These dates are before Joseph is sold into captivity. Now, what does Joseph represent here? He represents Israel, the leading tribe of Israel, right? He's the one with the blessings. Well, he hasn't got them yet, but he's going to get them later. And they're actually passed through him to his two sons. So it has significance here in a way. What does it mean? If you can interpret it another way, great. If not, if you want to dismiss it, fine. We have more to look at. This is, the Exodus takes place in 1379 BC. In 1377 BC, the curse, when they go to spy out the land, takes place on the 9th of Av. The 9th of Av, for some of you, happens to be next week. What's going on in Israel? I don't know, but pay attention. It's kind of important. Maybe something, I don't know. I'm not predicting nothing. Maybe nothing will happen, I hope. But it's not a good time for Israel. So, what happened before those years? So here we have 1382, spring and fall. 1381, spring and fall. 1380, spring and fall. 1379, in the spring. Moses and Aaron began their plagues, I think, approximately 1383, about 3.5 years before. 3.5 years for the two witnesses, 3.5 years for Elijah. Moses and Aaron are representative of the two witnesses. So I'm concluding 3.5 years, because they had to replace the cows 3 times. All the cattle are killed. Then they have to replace them, because then all the cattle are killed again by another plague, and then they have to replace them, and then the firstborn of the cattle died when the firstborn died on the last plague. And that doesn't happen overnight. So I'm saying at least 3.5 years. So from 1383 are these curses being laid out on Egypt, and this is when the blood moons take place, and on the eve, on Passover day, when they're in their rooms, eating the meal with their shoes on, their cloak on, and their staff in their hand, there was a blood moon, according to the sighted moon calendar. Okay, if I was in Tennessee, I'd say, slap my britches right now, because I'm not allowed to say what we say in Canada. Slap my britches. That's kind of like, oh, wow. We're not done yet. 723 BC, all chronologists have assumed it was 722 or 721 when Israel was destroyed. I'm not going to argue with it. But some of the top chronologists are now redoing that and saying it's 723 when Israel went into captivity, when Samaria was defeated by the Assyrians. So 723. Let's look before 723 to see how many blood moon warnings there were to and over Israel. Again, I'm only including those ones that are over Israel. I'm not including those ones that are in parts of the world that you can't see. So when you check the NASA calendar, you also got to check there to see what parts of the world they're going to be seen in. Because a warning, a blood moon warning, is useless if it's not seen. Right? So 741 in the spring, 741 in the fall, 740 in the spring, 740 in the fall, 739 in the fall, not in the spring, 733 in the spring, 732 in the spring, 732 in the fall, 731 in the fall, 730 in the fall, 723 in the spring. Okay, they're not tetrads, but they are warnings. And they would potentially, I say potentially because we can't prove it, potentially they come on the high holy days at Passover and Sukkot. Again, potentially, I can't prove it. This is not a doctrine written in stone. But it's I got to think about this a bit. There's something here. Judah goes into captivity in 586 BC. These are the blood moons before that I've been able to find that are visible over Jerusalem. 586, so 591, 590, and 589. right? There are a few years before, but that's the best I could do. Well, that's the only ones I could find. That doesn't mean there are more, but they're not on potentially high holy days. Okay? Here we have the death of Yeshua in 31 AD. And we have the temple being destroyed in 70 AD. Any blood moons there? April 25th, 31 Common Era. Yeshua was killed on the tree. It was a partial blood moon. You see how it goes through part of the blood moon? It's a dark moon though. And it's visible over Jerusalem. When was he hung on the tree? On the 14th. When's Passover? On the 15th. When's the blood moon? On the 15th. They killed the Messiah, and then they look up and they see this blood moon, or partial blood moon and the dark moon. And they're wondering about all the stuff they know. What have we done? Or does it mean anything? Oops, I forgot to show you these ones. These are all the potential blood moons on the high holy days from the death of Yeshua in April 31 Common Era until the destruction of the temple in 70 Common Era. That's 40 years of blood moons. Count them. They're not 40 there, but count them. 31, 32, 32, 33, 33, 34, 34, 41, 41, and 41. There's three of them. 42, 42, 50, 51, 52, 59. So there's a space in there now. Oh, hang on. I missed it because I did this wrong. 42. Then we go across to 49. Then 50 and 50, 51, 51, 52, 52, 59, 60, 60, 61, 68, 68. So the Bar Kokhba, or not the Bar Kokhba revolt, the rebellion has started. It started in 66. Not the Maccabees. That's 100 years, 160 years before this, 200 years before this. This is the revolt that causes the Romans to come in. They tear down the bridge from the Fort Antonio over to the Temple Mount. They tore that down, and because they caused the Romans to start to come, they built it back up again. So that started in 66 AD. This is the Rome's now on its way to Jerusalem. This doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. So 68, 68, 69, 69. Temples tore down the 9th of Av. April, 70. Blood moon. After the temple's gone, 70, there's a blood moon in both September and October. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Does Jehovah warn you with a blood moon? I don't know. I'm not the judge here. You are. I'm just the lawyer presenting the evidence. Okay, please. Okay, I'm looking at you. Close your mouths, please. Okay? What? So now, having seen all this information presented thus far, I have to ask you, what does it mean? What do the blood moons mean for 2014 and 2015? What do the dark moons mean in 2016? Are they significant for us? Leviticus 26. And if you will not be reformed by me by these things, but will walk contrary to me, then I will walk contrary to you and will punish you 7 times more for your sins, and I will bring a sword on you that shall execute the vengeance of my covenant. And when you are gathered in your cities, remember we read that part? Here's the part you may have glossed over. And when you are gathered in your cities, I will send a dark moon amongst you. No, I will send the plague amongst you. What's the dark moon? And you shall be delivered in the hand of your enemy. And when I have broken the staff of your bread, so here's the dark moon part. 10 women shall bake your bread in one oven, and they shall deliver your bread by weight, and you shall eat and not be satisfied. Dark moon, famine. The arrows of famine. There's the 4th curse. You have your warning before the 4th curse starts. Ezekiel 7. So again, we got to get into the bad stuff. I'm sorry, I'm not your Joel Osteen peace and prosperity baloney message. Joel 7:1. And it happened, the word of Jehovah came to me, saying, and you, son of man, so says the Lord Jehovah, to the land of Israel, an end. The end has come on the four corners of the land. The four corners is an expression of the four corners of the world. Right? The four corners of the world. When does that happen? It's not when Israel was destroyed. Who's Ezekiel? Ezekiel is in captivity from 586 BC with the Jews. When was Israel taken into captivity? 100 some odd 50 years before that, in 723. Who's he talking to? Us in the last days, not to Israel who was in the land then, because they weren't, they were gone, and they never came back. He's talking to us now. An end, the end has come on the four corners of the land. Now the end is on you, Israel. I will send my anger, my fury. Remember my fury in the Leviticus 26 curse. My anger on you, and will judge you according to your ways, and will lay on you all your abominations. My eye shall not spare you, neither will I have pity. What? The God of mercy, no pity? Neither will I have pity. But I will repay your ways on you, and your abomination shall be in your midst, and you shall know that I am Jehovah. So says the Lord Jehovah, and evil, behold, and only evil has come. An end has come. The end has come. It awakes against you. Behold, it has come. It's here already, brethren. It's here already, and you don't see it. The encirclement has come. We have been encircled. Look around us. I'm going to show you that in a minute. O dwellers of the land, the time has come. The day of tumult is near, and not a shout of the mountains. And I will soon pour out my fury, there's that fury again, on you, and fulfill my anger on you. And I will judge you according to your ways, and will repay you for your abominations, and my eye shall not spare, neither will I have pity. Am I reading the same verse over again, or is he just double emphasizing because we're so stupid and thick-headed? He knows you. And my eye shall not spare, neither will I have pity. I will repay according to your ways and your abominations that are in your midst. And you shall know that I am Jehovah who strikes. Behold the days, behold it has come. The encirclement has come, has gone out. The rod has blossomed, pride has budded. The rod is Assyria. Don't miss that. I'm just going to go back because I want to make sure I haven't read this twice. No, I haven't. Ezekiel 7, verse 11. Violence has risen up for a rod of wickedness, the rod of Assyria. None of them shall remain. Remember what we said? None. None. A remnant shall remain, but the majority will be gone. Nor of their multitude, nor any of their riches, nor shall there be wailing for them. There's going to be cheering when we are destroyed. Remember 9/11? What were they doing? Passing out candy, yay. Let not the buyer rejoice, let not the seller mourn, for wrath is on her multitude. For the seller shall not return to that which is sold, although they are still alive. For the vision to all her multitude shall not return, and a man shall not hold his life strong in iniquity. In iniquity. They have blown the trumpet, they have sounded the alarm, even to make at ready. But none goes to battle. What? Why? For my wrath is on all her multitudes. Verse 15. The sword is outside, the plagues and famine, there it is again, are inside the cities. He who is in the field shall die with the sword, and he who is in the city shall be devoured by famine and plague. But if their fugitives shall escape, then they shall be like doves of the valleys on the mountains, all the morning, each one for his iniquity. All hands shall be feeble, and all knees shall go weak as water. And they shall also gird on sackcloth, and trembling shall cover them, and shame shall be on all their faces, and baldness on all their heads. They shall throw their silver into the streets, their gold shall be an impure thing. If you're caught with money on it, it's going to be taken, you killed. Their silver and their gold shall not be able to deliver them in the day of the wrath of Jehovah. They shall not satisfy their souls, neither fill their bowels, because their iniquity has become a stumbling block for them, and the beauty of his ornament he set it in majesty. But they made the images of their abominations, our gods, our statues, our false images that we worship. He has set it in majesty. But they made their images of their abomination and of their hateful things in it. Therefore I have put it to them, as I am sure, as an impure thing, and I will give it into the hands of the strangers for a prize, to the wicked of the earth for a spoil, and they shall defile it. Well, we're not done yet. I will also turn my face from them. Remember what we said yesterday? We will be fatherless. Remember that word? I will turn my face from them, and they shall defile my secret place, and violent ones shall enter into it and defile it. Make a chain, for the land is full of bloody judgments, and the city is full of violence. And I will bring the most evil. Look on the news. Do not bury your head in the sand and turn off the news and see what's going on in the Middle East. Not just Hamas, but look at Iraq and Iran, Syria, right now. And I will bring the most evil of the nations, and they shall possess your houses. I will also make the pomp of the strong to cease, and their holy places shall be defiled. Ruin comes, and they shall seek peace, but not find it. Disaster on disaster shall come, and rumor on rumor shall be, and they shall seek a vision from the prophet, but the law shall perish from the priest, and wisdom from the elders. The king shall mourn, and the prince shall be clothed with despair, and the hands of the people of the land shall be troubled. I will do to them according to their way, and according to their judgments. I, Jehovah, will judge them, and they shall know that I am Jehovah. Ezekiel is speaking to you 130 years after Israel went into captivity. He's talking to us today, not to a nation that's already in captivity. He's talking to us today. The blood moons of 2014 and 2015 warn us of a coming war. Warn us of a coming war. The fourth curse of the sabbatical cycle is war. Leviticus 26, it's warning us of a sword that's coming. It also warns us of a famine. The darkened moons on March 23rd and September 16 warn us of a coming famine. Are those on the high holy days? Right now, we're speculating that they could be. If it turns out that they are, you're all going to go, oh, no. And right now, you're all praying, let's hope Joe's wrong. I pray that. There are blood moons on June 5th and July 5th, 2020, the middle of this Jubilee cycle. This is when the covenant made with many comes to an end, after one Shabuah, one 49-year period. So now, here are the blood moons from 2020 until 2023, when Satan is to be locked away. Passover comes in March or April each year, and Sukkot comes in September or October. There they are. Those are the blood moons. Joel 2 is talking about the blood moons in 2033, during the 3.5-year tribulation that we talked about. Right? The two witnesses are working from trumpets 2026 until 2030. What's going on during that time? Right? The 2300 days of hell start in 2020. Now they come forward. So you go from High Holy Day, the Feast of Trumpets, or Shavuot 2020, come forward to the Feast of Trumpets 2026 is the 2300 days of hell. That's when we will be trampled and run underfoot. Then the two witnesses kick in Trumpets 2026, and they go to Passover 2030. And in Passover 2030, we flee. And then the beast comes back and kills the rest who keep the commandments who are on the wrong calendar. Which one's right? You judge. Which calendar, which Passover, because you're all brought back out of captivity to Jerusalem, and you're going to be brought there to keep the Passover. Are you going to keep it at the right time? Or are you going to still be stubborn and keep it at the wrong time? This controversy will be settled then, because those people on the wrong calendar will be killed by the beast. One group flees into the wilderness. Right? That's the woman in Revelation. Take a look in the year 2026. When the two witnesses start, look at all the blood moons to January, June, July, December. Right? There's 4 of them. The two witnesses work for 2026 until Passover 2030 when they will be killed, which begins the Great Tribulation. Each of the blood moons from 2026 to 2030 come during the years of captivity. So here's the years of captivity from 2024 until 2030. These are the blood moons during that captivity period. Again, what do they mean? These are the blood moons during the last 3.5 years of the tribulation when Satan is to be locked away on atonement in 2033. So now, that's according to the sighted moon. Now look at the dates that Mark Biltz has used and using the wrong calendar, the Hebrew calendar, and let us look at them using the sighted moon method before the events that he's talking about. So he's got some historical dates. He's used the Hebrew calendar, and they're always hindsight. Let's look at those same dates. Let's use the sighted moon calendar and see what we come up with. Here's World War I. These are the blood moons on the high holy days before World War I. Okay, so World War I starts in July 1914. Yes, September 1914 is after it just starts, but this is all before. This is World War II. Began in Japan 1937 and in Europe September 1, 1939. There's all the blood moons before World War I and World War II. According to the sighted moon, using the sighted moon as our reference, and the barley being a Aviv. So for 1948, I couldn't find any blood moons prior. In 1967, the Six-Day War, I couldn't find any blood moons before that. Well, I just couldn't find them. So they're not there. What does that mean? He didn't warn us. Does he warn us every time? On some of the big things, I think he does. So the 4th sabbatical cycle is the curse for war. We have blood moons and a dark moons warning us of what's coming next. Now, we're going to look at the 4 horsemen. This I just added. So, let's take a look. The first horseman is the white horse. Revelation 6:2. And I saw and behold a white horse, and he sitting on it had a bow. And a crown was given to him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. What does that represent? Most of you know that's false religion. But the bow tells you something about which religion we're looking at. The white horse is not the Messiah, it's the false religion. The bow is represented back here in Genesis. And the messenger of Jehovah saith to her, who is he talking to? Hagar. Behold, thou art conceiving and bearing a son. He has called his name Ishmael. For Jehovah hath hearkened unto thee, unto thine affliction. He is a wild ass of a man. Whoops, you're not supposed to say that in public. There it is in the King James. He's a wild ass of a man. Get your head out of your butt and stop being embarrassed about what Jehovah's telling you. Because your politically correct attitude is killing you. He's a wild ass of a man, his hand against everyone. Do you see that in the world right now? They're not just after one enemy, they're after all their enemies. And everyone is their enemy. his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him. And before the face of all his brethren he dwelleth. Genesis 21:17. And God heard the voice of the lad, and the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven and said unto her, What aileth thee? Hagar said, No. Why have I got this here? So we're looking for the blessing or what God's going to say. So we'll continue down here. And he said, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the bottle and water and gave the lad drink. And God was with the lad, and he grew, and he dwelt in the wilderness, and he became an archer. Ishmael became an archer. Okay? What are we talking about? In Revelation 6, the bow. Genesis 25:27, and the boys grew up, talking about Esau and Jacob. And Esau was a man knowing hunting, and Jacob was a simple man living in tents. 27:1, Genesis 27:1. And it happened when Isaac was old and his eyes were dim, so that he could not see, he called his eldest son Esau and said to him, My son. He said to him, Behold, I'm here. And he said to him, Behold, here I am. And he said, Behold, now I am old. I do not know the day of my death. So now please take your weapons, your quiver, and your bow. Esau, with archer. Genesis 27:39. Okay, so now Esau has been deceived by Jacob. The blessing has gone to Jacob, but Isaac still blesses Esau. Listen to what he says. And Isaac his father answered and said to him, Behold, your dwelling shall be of the fatness of the earth. You shall have all the oil of the world, and gain all this money, and of the dew of the heaven from above. And by your sword you shall live. Wow. And shall serve your brother. He is subservient to Jacob now. And it shall be, when you shall have the dominion, look up that word dominion and then go and watch that teaching on Assyria. You shall break his yoke from off your neck. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing. Esau in the last days is going to break the yoke of Jacob off his neck and trample the earth. Dominion. Rude. To tramp. Have dominion. Lord, mourn, rule. Lord and mourn. What they got to do in the same verse? Dominion. Jeremiah 16:16. Behold, I will send many fishermen, says Jehovah. I'm a fisherman. I'm casting out a line. I'm not forcing you to believe any of this. I'm telling you what I'm saying. And afterwards, I will send out many hunters. And they will hunt them from every mountain. And the hunters don't ask questions. They shoot, and that's it. You have an assignment to do. You need to go and watch the video on Assyria with this trample in mind, this dominion in mind. You need to go and watch it, because I take you step by step from the beginning, from Ham, Cush, Nimrod, down to our day, and I show you who is going to be the one trampling, who is going to be the one breaking in pieces, and where it comes from. It's Assyria. And it's Assyria with Islam. He said it out loud. Yes. Stand up. Stop being scared of them. Call a spade a spade. The king of the south is Islam. The king of the north will be Germany. And they're going to get together. Second horseman. Revelation 6:3. And when I opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature say, Come and see. And another, a red horse, went out. And power is given to him sitting on it to take peace from the earth. Peace. Peace when there is no peace. The United Nations of Peace is going to help solve everything. And they should kill one another. And there was given to him a great sword. We've been warning you since 2005 about the fourth curse of Leviticus 26, the coming sword. I've read it to you already a bunch of times. It's coming. It's coming. The fourth sabbatical cycle is when this fourth curse is to come, and it scares, if that scares you enough to begin to obey, then awesome. because I've been accused of fear-mongering the brethren, trying to scare them straight. And guess what? I'm guilty. Because Jehovah is the one that uses the fear to scare you straight, to direct you back to Torah. And all I've been doing is quoting scriptures in all my teachings, because I don't want to be found to be in error. It's Jehovah that's scaring you back. It's Jehovah that's the fearmonger doing this. Blood moon is for war, and a dark moon is for famine. Revelation 6:5, and when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, "Come and see," and look. And I looked, and lo, a black horse, and he sitting on it had a balance in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst saying, four living creatures say, a measure of wheat for a denarius, and 3 measures of barley for a denarius. And do not hurt the oil and the wine. You are not going to be raptured out of this. You are going through this. The 2,300 days of pure hell, when everyone around you is going to be slaughtered. The 3.5 years, when the 2 witnesses will start to avenge your deaths of those around you, hopefully not you. And then the last 3.5 years, when you flee into the wilderness, and those who don't flee are killed during the tribulation. How many years is that? It's not just 3.5 years. It's not being raptured out early. Get that out of your head. Those who are resurrected on Shavuot at the end of the tribulation, which we've explained to you. When I've broken the staff of your bread, 10 women shall bake your bread in one oven. We're talking about famine. So I haven't shown you the pictures of famine that I could. I've been beating you up pretty good this weekend with some of the stuff I have been showing you. I haven't shown you the pictures of terror that are coming that I could. Some of you don't want to see it. The 4th horseman is a pale horse, and it represents death. 1/4 of the earth's population is going to die by sword and famine and be eaten by animals. And when he had opened the 6th seal, this is Revelation 6, verse 7, when he opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th living creature say, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse. And the name of him sitting on it was Death, and hell followed him. With authority was given to him over a 4th part of the earth, to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and by the beasts of the earth. 1/4 of the earth's population is 1.75 billion. Billion, with a B. Dead. We're at that point in history now. I want you all to notice the 5th seal here. The 5th seal. Revelation 6:9. And when he had opened the 5th seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain for the word of God, those who keep the Torah. I want you to think about Mosul up here when I'm reading this. And for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, "Until when, Master, holy and true, do you not judge? Do you not avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth?" And white robes were given to each one of them. And it was said to them that they should rest yet a little more time, until both their fellow servants and their brothers, those about to be killed as they were, should have their number made complete. And when he had opened the 6th seal, I looked and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became as black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood. What have we been talking about? This word slain in verse 9 is butchered, slaughtered. What's going on here, brethren? Those who dwell on the earth and will not obey Torah are going to be killed. Some of us will be martyred. I tell people, do you want to be dragged out from under your bed for being a coward? Or do you want to be killed for having done something? I don't want to be killed, period. Those who seek to save their lives will lose them. Those willing to risk their lives will save them. We need thousands more people standing up and speaking out. And come hell or high water, you need to start doing that. We are not to become boxed into a church and belong to a group and not go out. We're to become apostles and go out to the world and teach this to everyone else. The best thing that ever happened to me was getting kicked out of the United Church of God. Otherwise, I would have stayed there and just been spoon-fed. I'd never have done this. And unless the leadership would have allowed me to speak, then I would never have been able to speak. But Jehovah reached in and got me out, kicked me out, and opened my mind to understand this stuff. As I obeyed. You need to get out there and start speaking. Come hell or high water. Because hell is coming. Remember the colors of the four horsemen? This is a parade in Chicago. This was just a few weeks ago. Anti-Israel parade. What are the colors of the four horsemen? White, red, pale, and black. What's it mean? I don't know. Is it tied in? I don't know. Strange coincidence, I think. In the news the past few weeks, out of nowhere comes this army called ISIS. The Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. This is their 5-year plan for the Middle East. The 5-year plan for the Middle East. All of North Africa, all of the Middle East, parts of Asia, the western part of Asia, all the way down to Sri Lanka, Spain, Turkey, and the, what do they call that part of Europe? The Slavic countries of Europe? Balkans, yes, thank you. Okay? There's a lot of Islamic peoples in the Balkans right now. This is, what did I just say? The 5-year plan. 5-year plan. What did they just do in Mosul? Put out an announcement, I'm not sure, either paper or radio or somehow, or leaflets. You've got till the end of Saturday to get out of town. The whole town. It's a Christian town, been there 1,200 years. Now, Christians are those who are worshiping on Sunday. Are they keeping Torah? No. Have they got some things right? Yes. Should we be concerned about them? Yes. It was in the book of Acts that sometime during Acts, the followers of the way, because we were called the followers of the way was keeping Torah, we became known as Christians. It says in the book of Acts, that's when they began to be called Christians. And we just sort of got blended in with them. Because they both believed in this Messiah, but one kept Saturday and another group started keeping Sunday. And Mosul, you got till the end of the day to get out of town. Then they burned the church, destroyed all the historical records that might be in there. And as they fled town, with whatever they could carry in their suitcases, they came to a checkpoint. And at the checkpoint, their suitcases were taken and their pockets were rifled and they were stripped and made sure they had nothing else hidden on them, and then they were allowed to go. They were lucky to have their lives. I watch many of the videos coming out of the Middle East. I have to. I don't want to. But I have to, because I have to tell you what's coming. This is black for a reason. I didn't make it black, it's just black. There's a cover, a darkness coming on the world. Remember in Daniel, the king of the south? The king of the south, he does something to the king of the north. He provokes him somehow, and the king of the north comes against him like a whirlwind. Okay, now go back to, I think it's Daniel 8. Is it Daniel 8? I'm not sure. There's a goat and a ram. and this ram does something, and the goat comes from the east, from Greece, and charges the ram and destroys the ram, breaks off his two horns. That's the king of the north and the king of the south interacting. I don't understand all the nuances of prophecy. I've got a good idea about sabbatical and jubilee year cycles. I don't understand all this stuff, but I do know that in the churches of God, we've always been taught the 10 toes were Europe, 10 European countries. Those 10 toes are iron and clay. The iron is Germany. The clay, Arab, is the Arabs, the Muslims. The king of the north joins with the king of the south, and then after that, they form those 10 nations of the world. The United Nations already has the world divided in 10. So I've changed my position on that. I'm suggesting you take and re-examine that. Darkness is coming. And it's going to be very bad. I've said yesterday, I'll say it again for the camera, there are no women being taken and shot and executed, but every prisoner of war, every captive Christian is being tortured and executed by these Muslims. What are they doing with the women? They're brothels. They're fodder for the armies. They're trophies for their lusts. In the Quran it says that you can take and make her a bride for a night and then throw her away the next day. She's an infidel. She's nothing. She's not worth anything. And that's you people. Stop burying your head in the sand. Stop being politically correct, because it's going to get us all killed. Remember who Joseph is? Joseph is Manasseh and Ephraim. Here's the blessing for Joseph, laid on Joseph by Jacob. What are we talking about? The archers here. The archers. What are archers? Bows and arrows. What are the arrows? Missiles. Go to Zechariah. What's Zechariah talking about? A flying scroll. What's the flying scroll? It's got stork's wings. What's in the flying scroll? It's being pushed by two women. What's in the flying scroll? It's got an unclean woman in the middle of it. What's that? It's in a lead box. Why is it in a lead box? What's that woman? You ever hear the expression, we have it today? You're playing with it. Okay, we got an extra marital affair going on. You're playing with fire. What's that talking? Because in Hebrew, the word fire and woman are almost similar, except for the punctuation of a dot, and I forget where it is. These women aren't women in this flying scroll. The unclean fire in a lead box is a nuclear device. The two women pushing the scroll through the sky with stork wings are two jet-propelled rockets with fire coming out of them. Joseph is a fruitful son by a well, whose branches run over the wall. The archers have sorely grieved him and shot at him. The archers have sorely grieved him and shot at him. Who are the archers? And an archer lurks for him. Lurks for him. What does that mean? I don't know. Go look it up. Submarines are lurking around the ocean. You who are the judge angels, judge now. If the blood moons in 2014 and 2015 and the dark moons in 2016 on the high holy days are a warning of war and famine or not. You judge. I'm just presenting you with the evidence that I see. If you decide they are indeed a warning from Jehovah, then you are obligated to warn others from this day forward, as we were warned in Ezekiel. Ezekiel 33, you all know this. And the word of the Lord came to me. So this is talking, if you don't speak up, their blood is required of you. If you speak up and warn them they don't do nothing, I've spoken to you guys don't do nothing about this, he's a nutcase. You die, your blood's on your own head. I'm not responsible for it. I've been running flat out since 2005 when I began to be shown these curses. And I've been shown more and more as time goes on. And I'm flat out tired. But I can't stop. I can't stop. Because looking out there again, your jaws are still on the floor. Because you guys are seeing something and yet no one's talking about it. And I got no help. You're looking at the whole Sighted Moon ministry right here. This is it. I'm the secretary, the treasurer, doesn't have much to do, that guy. I'm the tech guy, can't figure nothing out. I answer the phone, I answer the emails, I write the articles, and I present these PowerPoints. Me, by myself. And it shouldn't be. And I'm not looking to create an organization. I'm looking for people to be out there yelling out this message as best you can. And I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you had AC training or not. Y'all got a mouth and y'all got a tongue. If you see the sword coming and you don't do nothing, its blood is going to be their blood. They're going to die anyway, but their blood is going to be required at your head. These videos that we're making here, they're free. They should be passed out to everybody online. If you want a DVD, they cost me money, and I don't got money to just give them away. I don't got money to give the books away. I give too many books away because I'm not making a profit doing this. I didn't set out to do this to make myself, buy myself a jet engine airplane like some evangelical ministries are today. This scripture in Ezekiel terrifies me. I'm flat out, and I'm ticked off because I haven't done enough. I haven't done enough, and some of you look at me and how can he do as much as he does? I'm not bragging, I'm just saying that's what I hear. I haven't done enough. Okay, we got 30 some odd people here. We should have 1 million people here. I should be doing this every weekend all around these 12 Israelite tribe countries. It's not happening. We got 1.5 years to keep the sabbatical year. 1.5 years to get people to understand that concept. And you guys heard that song. And for some of you, that was too much to learn all at once. And it was brand new. No one's teaching. How come Mr. Armstrong didn't teach it? How come Ellen White never taught it? Ellen White, for you SDA people, taught you to keep the sabbatical, or the holy days. But you buried them in your books so that you didn't have to learn them. You are to keep the holy days, and you are to keep the sabbatical years. Sound the warning. Look at those 4 horsemen, look at the colors, sound the warning. Get off your butt, get off your pew, get out of your comfort zone, and start to tell other people. Well, don't find excuses, find reasons to do it. Well, don't find excuses. This couple had an excuse not to host this meeting. They found the courage to do it. Now we're able to record this for you. Each of you, I don't care how ordinary you are, each of you. I can't say big words. I stumble over my tongue. I'm used to be afraid to speak in public. I used to wet my pants in public school when it came to this public speaking. I'm serious. I just so I could get out of the room and not have to give my speech. Stop finding excuses and start finding reasons why. And the reasons why are in your loved ones. Your husbands, your wives, your children, your grandchildren, your parents, your aunts, uncles, relatives, the people in your fellowship. There's your reasons to start doing it. Again, and I heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send? Who will go for us?" Then I said, here am I, send me. And he said, go and tell this people, and you hear indeed, but not understand. They're going to hear these words, but they're not going to get it. And seeing you see, but do not know. Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their hearts, and turn back and be healed. Jehovah is calling a few now to be kings and priests. Where they are, I don't know, but we got to start shaking the bushes and finding them. They're eager to learn, but they don't know what to do. They're eager to learn. I get it so many times, and they're in all the denominations. Not just the Churches of God, not just the Seventh-day Adventists or the Seventh-day Baptists. They're in the Anglican, and they're in the Catholic, and they're in the Protestant churches, and they're in the atheist groups. And some of them are homosexuals, and many of them are prostitutes looking for a way out. And some of them are drug dealers and drug addicts. I'm not even going to go there. Yeah, I'm going to go there. My sister was a prostitute and a porn star. And she came because I sent her to the Churches of God in Alberta. Go there and they'll help you get you straight. And I'm teaching her stuff, and I'm in Ontario. She goes there and she's dressed to go to church. She's dressed up nice. She's got tight slacks and a tight top. She's a stripper. She's good looking. You don't pay money to go look at cows. You pay money to go look at really good looking women. So she's got her makeup on, her hair all done up, and she's a dynamite looking woman. And I say this because I know there's other people out there who are having the same problem with the churches you're in because you happen to be good looking. They want you to cover your head and cover your body and take away all your curves and dress you like a burqa. Stop. The problem is not with the beauty that God has given you. The problem is with the man who's lusting. Cover his eyes because he's the one that has the problem. So what do we do as men? We cover the women in burqas, and then we go lust after other women. That's what they do in the Middle East. Their women are all covered up, but they're lusting after the women in the West who are all out there shaking their booty on TV and all their dancing stuff. Reach out to those people who are down and out. Reach out to people like my sister. Reach out to the people who are stuck on crack and cocaine, who are stuck in homosexuality. They just don't know. Do not brand them wrong. The sin is wrong. The people are what we're trying to work with. Okay, that's my little side note. Then I said, Lord, how long? And he answered, until the cities are wasted, without inhabitant, and the houses without a man, and the land waste, a desolation. Our land. That's how long we're to do this for. Until there's nothing left, we are to speak out. And until Jehovah has moved men far away, and the desolation in the midst of the land is great, but yet in it shall be a tenth, and it shall return and be consumed, like the terebinth, and like the oak being felled, yet its stump, the holy seed is its stump. A tenth part will be saved, which is what Jacob said to Jehovah, I will give you a tenth of all my, doesn't say children in the Bible, it's talking about his children, a tenth part of all my children. So unless you turn back your heart from breaking the curses, unless from breaking the commandments, from breaking the Sabbath, the holy days, and the sabbatical year, unless you as an individual do it, not that other guy, you do it, then we are all going to face these curses of Leviticus 26. I've now warned you about the fourth curse that's right around the corner. Are you going to obey him? Jehovah? Because you're not obeying me, and you're not following me, and you're not joining my organization, because I'm the only one allowed to be in my church. This is the Church of Joe, and you can't join it. Are you going to obey and teach others? And I don't care, and you shouldn't care if they kick you out. If everyone gets kicked out of the churches of God, who's going to pay their pension? Speak up. You know, I know some of those leaders are mad because of all the sacred namers and all the calendar issues and all this other stuff and the blood moon stuff. Speak up. We had somebody storm out of here yesterday, and it bothers me because he didn't get to judge the whole matter. Speak up. That's it. Thank you.
The 2300 Days of Hell is one of the most terrifying books of our day. You will learn who the people of Daniel are and why they are reaping the curses of Leviticus 26. You will learn why the prophecy in Daniel 9 verses 24 through 27 has nothing to do with Jesus and everything to do with King David. You will learn when the 13 tribes of Israel are going to be destroyed in the middle of this 120th Jubilee cycle we are in right now. You will learn when the 2300 days of Daniel begin and how they show you when the two witnesses start to rescue the remnant of the 13 tribes of Israel from the beast power and captivity. This then leads to the murder of the two witnesses in this remnant fleeing into the wilderness during the last 3.5 years of the tribulation. You will learn what the covenant made with many really is, when it began, when it ends, and just how big this thing is, and how involved you are. What you're about to learn in this book is going to scare you and cause you to weep for your loved ones who will not obey. Once you read the 2300 Days of Hell, you will understand the significance of the events on the nightly news and how it's going to affect you and your family. Once you read the 2300 Days of Hell, you will never look at prophecy the same way again. Is it possible to know where the 10 lost tribes went? Does history show them using another name other than Israel? Did you know history records large groups of people leaving Egypt for Greece before Moses and the Exodus? Are you aware that the Israelites were called Bit Kumri by the Assyrians? After the captivity, they were called Gomerians by their captors. Other people called these same people Gomerians, and later on they were known as the Cimmerians. In these people was a group of people known as the Amerindians. Out of the Cimmerians came the Celtic and the Gaulish people, and today we know them as the Celts. Some of the Celtic people are known as the Anglo and Saxons, son of Isaac. The Gaelic people come from the port of Gaul, better known as Portugal today. Before this, they were found in Zaragoza, Spain, and before that, they were from those same Greeks that fled Egypt before Moses and the Exodus. Did you know your own family crest can show you from what tribe of Israel you are from? The red hand on the flag of Ireland tells the story of Tamar and the birth of Zerah sticking out his hand before Pharez. This is the same Zerah that Zaragoza is named after. The unicorn on the crest of England shows Israel as the unicorn in captivity by the chain around its neck and the line of Judah with the crown on it. Why has Ireland the harp of King David for its national emblem? Why has Scotland got the same symbol as Judah, a lion, but Scotland's is red? How is the Norwegian lion or the Dutch lion and their crests tied into this? Are you aware of your rich and exciting history and how prophecy is speaking about you in these last days? It is time for you to know who you are, and you can prove it from your own encyclopedias once you know what to look for.